Hi, this is Steve from Office365Mon.com, and today we're going to look at how to configure your subscription for monitoring Office 365. A subscription is how we keep track in Office 365 Mon of the different things that you want us to monitor and how to do it. So to get started, you can just click on the Start Now link down here, or you can go up here to Configure Office 365 Mon. The first thing that you'll see you'll need to do is to log in. So that's how we know who you are. So you can go ahead and log into Azure Active Directory, which we'll do right now. And when you first log in, it's going to ask you if we have your permission to go ahead and read your profile. And again, the only reason we do that is so we know what your user principal name is, your UPN, so we know who you are when we're creating a new subscription for you. Once you get in here, then you'll go ahead and you'll enter your company name, your contact email. That's how we get a hold of you and let you know if there's a change in features or whatever. And then optionally how you heard about us. And then you go ahead and click on the submit button. So let's just go ahead and create one here. And we'll go Steve's company, Steve, Steve.com, and say submit. And then when we do that, that'll go ahead and create a new subscription for us. And then it will show all of the different things that we need to do now to go ahead and get this subscription up and running to the point where we need to monitor it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to an existing subscription so you can see a little more information about how these things are filled out and the information that's actually in there. Okay, we're back now and we're looking at another Office 365 Mon subscription, and we're going to go ahead and walk through the different parts of it that you'll need to configure. So when we first come in, if you had created multiple subscriptions, you'd see a drop down here of the different subscriptions that you have access to. In this case, we have a couple for this account. Here's the company name and contact email that we entered when we created this subscription, like we were just showing. Down here is the subscription admins. So when you create a new Office 365 Mon subscription, you're automatically added as an admin to that subscription. If you want to add someone else as an admin on your Office 365 Mon subscription, it's really easy. All you do is just type in their UPN, whatever it is, Steve at steve.com, and click the add admin button, and that will add them as an admin on this particular subscription. There isn't any sort of trust between, Azure Active Directory domains or anything like that you need to do. You can add anyone from anywhere. All you need is their UPN to use. And then as you saw, if you want to remove someone as an admin, you can just click on the delete button there. So once you set that up, that gives you the list of people that can administer this particular subscription. But out of the box, you'll have yourself set up as an admin, so you can just keep on going and skip past that if you'd like. The next part is the notification info. That's what we're going to use to let you know when something interesting happens. So something interesting could be an outage has started or an outage has ended. It could be the version of SharePoint that's been pushed out to your SharePoint Online tenant has changed. It could be you're monitoring search and a query you asked us to monitor is running really slowly. Those are the kinds of things that we can send out notifications for. Outages are the most common thing that folks think about. And so one of the things that we have here is you can determine how long an outage has to be going on before we send notifications. And the reason why that's important is because you will find over time that there are these really short transient periods of time where we can't access your site or mailbox to monitor. And those, may run 30 seconds to a minute or so, but they don't really indicate a bigger outage. And so what you can do here is you can just enter the number of minutes that you want us to wait so we can really make sure it's a real outage, before we notify you. And the idea behind this is just to ensure that you don't get a bunch of notifications where most of them are not really, anything to be concerned about. So you can decide what your comfort level is here. You set that value and then click here to update that value. In terms of where we send those notifications to, you can add as many email addresses for us to send emails to. It can be an email address for an individual or for a distribution list, a group of people. You can also add as many phone numbers as you want, and we'll send text messages to those phone numbers. So you can just enter your whatever your phone number is here and say it's a text phone number, and then give it a description so you know what it's for. And then the same thing with email. Enter whatever email you want, say it's an email, whatever description you want, and then click the add notification button. So if we just go Steve, that's steve.com, say it's an email, say Steve's personal email, and then click add notification, and then it will get added to the list of notifications. In addition to that, we'll send, as you see up here, we'll send an email to that address right away so that you know it's been entered correctly. Same thing with a text message. When you enter a phone number, we'll send a text message to that number right away to ensure that it's been entered correctly. Again, if you want to remove one of these, you can just click on the delete button here, and that will go ahead and remove it. The other way that we have for notifying you is a webhook. And a webhook is where you can stand up your own web server and set up a URL on there that we can send data to when there's an outage. So when there's an outage, and we'll be sending you notifications to your email addresses and your phone numbers, you can also have us send you a bunch of data in a JSON format. And you plug in the URL right here where you want us to send that data to. And it just has to be a URL that's out on the internet that we can reach, that allows us anonymous access to go ahead and send you that data. And then that data will have all of the information about whatever it was that triggered that event, whether it's an outage starting or ending, or a slow query, or a change in your version of your SharePoint Online tenant or Exchange Online tenant. That's where that will go, is to that webhook. And then that allows you to create your own workflows. That could be to let your teammates know something's going on. You may want to post something to your corporate intranet page to let them know, hey, there's a problem with Exchange Online or SharePoint Online. You can also use that as a means to connect to any other backend systems that you may have where you want to capture that data. So think of it like trapping a SCOM event, that something's happened and you want to plug that in. You can do that with the webhook. Then when we get down here to the cloud resources, this is where you're going to tell us what to monitor, what SharePoint Online site, and what mailbox to monitor. A couple of things worth pointing out here. For each subscription, you only enter one SharePoint Online site and one mailbox. If you want to monitor multiple sites and or multiple mailboxes, then you can just create multiple subscriptions. One of the things that's nice about this is if you want to create multiple subscriptions, you can just click this copy subscription button, and it will create a new subscription. It'll give it a new name, but it will copy over all of the subscription admin and notification info and company info that you've already entered. So it makes it really easy to go ahead and enter multiple subscriptions. The other thing about this is that some people ask, well, what if I want to monitor every single site or every single mailbox? And the answer is that while technically you could do that, it's just a really bad idea, because you'll get flooded with so many notifications that it'll be impossible to really make sense of when there's actually something meaningful going on or not. The other thing, as well, is that it's just really not necessary. It's really impractical because, as a practical matter, what you'll find is that most times, not every single time, but most times when there's an outage with one SharePoint Online site, there's an issue with all of them. And when there's not an issue with one of them, it's rare that there's an issue with with one or two out there. So there are exceptions to that, but for the most part, it's really rare for just one or two sites to be having an issue. Generally, it's the whole tenant that's having an issue or not. And the same thing kind of goes for mailboxes. Where mailboxes are different, though, is that within a given region, your mailboxes can be split amongst different data centers, different geographies within that same region. So what we recommend in that case is that you go ahead and you find the different geographies, different data centers where you have mailboxes, and then go ahead and you can choose to monitor a mailbox in each one of those different data centers. And that tends to be sufficient for monitoring issues with Exchange Online as well. So to go ahead and monitor something, you would just type in the name of the site. In this case, we've typed in the name of our site and then click the update button. And what's going to happen now is we're going to go ahead and it's going to send us back to Azure Active Directory. If this was the first time we'd ever done it, Azure Active Directory would say, hey, is it okay for Office 365Mon to monitor this resource? And then you have the option to say yes or no. If you say no, then we're kind of done because if you don't give us permission to monitor the resource, there's nothing we can do for you. So in most cases, people just say yes, and then it comes back here. And what will happen at that point is Azure will have given us an access token that we can use to monitor that resource. And so when this page comes back up, we'll go ahead and we'll do a quick health probe right then and there just to verify that we can reach that resource that you just typed in down below. And the reason why we do that is because what we see happening every now and then is someone will ask us to monitor a resource like a SharePoint site or an Exchange mailbox, but they're not logged in to the site here as an account that has rights or access to that site. And so when Azure says, here's an access token you can use to monitor, it does so in the context of the user that you're logged in as. So if we try and access that resource as you and we can't access it, then we're not going to be able to monitor it for you. And so that's why we do that first check here. And so if you don't see any error messages, that means great. Everything worked fine. We were able to connect and get an access token, and we were able to go ahead and issue a first health probe against it and make sure that it worked. One other thing worth pointing out here while we're at the top of the page, there's a checkbox here to monitor for version changes. When you check that box, we'll go ahead and we'll monitor for changes in the version of your SharePoint Online tenant. When that changes, that can cause issues sometimes, whether that's a custom master page that may break, or whether that's new features that have been added, new menus that have been added that may be confusing for your users. There's lots of different reasons why you may want to know when the version of your SharePoint Online tenant changes. So if you want to get notifications when that happens, you can just check this box. And then down below, here's where, again, same thing for mailbox. You would type in the mailbox name and click update. One important thing to understand here is for the mailbox, because of certain limitations that exist within Office 365, you need to be logged in as the owner of this mailbox when you click the update button. It can't just be a mailbox that you have some sort of delegated rights to. You have to actually be logged in as the person that owns this mailbox, which we're not currently right now. But if we were, in order to do this, what we did is we wanted to be able to monitor that mailbox. So we went up here and we added that account, that UPN, as an admin on the subscription. And then we logged out of the browser, closed the browser and opened it back up and then logged back into the site. And we logged into the site as this particular user then. And once we did that, then we came down here and we just typed our mailbox name and we clicked the update button. And then that went through that same process that we just described. And then in addition down here, you'll also see a checkbox. So if you want to monitor for changes in the Exchange Online version, you can do that down here as well. And that's really all there is to setting up monitoring for Exchange and SharePoint. Skype for Business is really the same process as well. One of the important things to understand about Skype for Business, one is that in order for us to monitor your Skype for Business account, Microsoft requires that the person that's going to give us permission be a Skype for Business administrator or a Office 365 global admin. What we found as a practical matter is that just being a Skype for Business admin does not always work, and so we generally recommend that you're an Office 365 global administrator. And then again, you would just click the enable button here. Another thing to understand and remember is that when we monitor Skype for Business, we're monitoring presence and instant messaging, which means that there will be a lot of test messages sent. So you don't want to be logged in as an account that you're using every day with Skype for Business. You, again, want to generally have a separate account set up for monitoring. Make sure it has a license for Skype, Exchange, and SharePoint Online. And then you add that account as a subscription admin right up here and then log back into Office 365 Mon as that account. And then you go down here, type in your site, type in your mailbox, click the enable button here, and you will have set up monitoring then for all three of those things, for SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Skype for Business. And then finally, the Office 365 service info is down here. The Office 365 service info is another one where Microsoft, in this case, requires you to be a global tenant administrator in order to actually enable this feature. So you have to be logged on as an account that has those rights. And then you can just check the different statuses that you want us to notify you about. And these statuses correspond to different features within the different services you have. So for example, an example of a service would be Exchange Online. An example of a service, a feature within that service would be like email and calendar access. And so Microsoft has an API where they report the statuses of all of those different features within the service. And these are the different statuses that they use. And you can have us send you a notification. And again, when we say send a notification, that means any email addresses you have, any phone numbers you have for text messages, and a webhook if you have it set up. When we send those notifications, we can do it whenever any of the features you have and any of the services you have enter any of these states. So if you want to be notified by that, you just check whichever ones you want and then go ahead and click the update button, and that will go ahead and tell us which one of these service statuses you want us to stay on top of. Now, one of the things that people ask us is they say, well, okay, so I'm monitoring these statuses down here. Why do I also need to monitor my SharePoint Online site, Exchange Online, and Skype for Business up there? And the reason is because there's a big difference in how the monitoring is done. These service statuses are managed by Microsoft, and their view of it is really at the service as a whole for all. So, for example, all of SharePoint Online or all of Exchange Online. And the changes in those statuses tend to come fairly slowly. It could be anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours after an outage has started amongst a lot of different individual tenants before they change the status. But what we do up here when we're monitoring all of these, SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, Skype for Business, we're monitoring your individual tenant. And we're doing so about every minute or two. So we can let you know within a minute or two or a couple minutes, however long you want, when there's a problem with your specific tenant. And so that allows you to find out about these issues significantly faster than if you're just trying to rely on this sort of status change information that you get from Microsoft. Now, once you've gone ahead and you've set up all your monitoring, you can see we went through it a little bit slow to kind of explain what all the different pieces are, but you can literally get monitoring set up for all of your resources in just a matter of a few minutes. Once that's done, then we'll start monitoring those resources and collecting information on them. You can go to something into features like the My Info page. The My Info page is where you'll get a really good, what we call the 360-degree view of the subscription. So if you look up here, you see the basic information about the subscription that you filled out when you created it. Over here, you'll see the current status of all the resources that we're monitoring for you. We haven't talked about all of these yet. Some of these are covered in other videos. For example, this is for monitoring the email transport, which we haven't discussed in this one. But down here, you'll see the SharePoint site that we're monitoring and the current status for it, as we're showing today, along with the current version of that SharePoint Online tenant, and then also the Exchange mailbox we're monitoring and the status of it. If we scroll down a little bit further, the status of the services and features. This is related to the Office 365 admin info that we were discussing on the previous page. So here are all the different services that you see and all of the features within those services and the status for each one of them. So down here we see the SharePoint Online service is in a service degradation state. If we go ahead and click on that, then we'll see all of the features that make up that service. And within that, we see the SharePoint features feature has a status of service degradation. So going back to that previous page, if you had selected the service degradation status to be notified about it, then when the SharePoint features feature had entered the service degradation state, then you would have received notifications. So emails, text messages, webhook if you'd signed up for that. In addition to that, over here you get all of these messages that you would normally have to go to the Service Health dashboard to see. We go ahead and expand any of these. You can see, you can read all of these different messages that have been sent over there to you. So again, this is why we call this your 360-degree view of your Office 365 tenant. You see what's going on up here based on our monitoring. We see what the status is according to Microsoft. We see the other messages that have been sent to your Service Health dashboard as well. And then finally down here at the bottom, we see the overall availability summary of the resources that we're monitoring for you, what it's been over the current month. So again, you see all of this data from all of these different sources, all of this different kind of information about your tenant. It's kind of a one-stop shop to find all that. Now, once we have all this information, we're going to probably want to take a look at some of the reports. So we can go in here, over here to the basic reports. So for the basic monitoring, there's lots of different things. You can get, for example, the most recent health checks we've done. That will show up right over here in a tabular format. You can see what it's been doing, what the response time is like, what the status response has been like. You can also see how many health checks we've been doing for you over the course of the various months, the average response time, the overall service responsiveness as well. If we go into the advanced reports, all of these reports are in a graphical format. So for example, we can see all of the outages we've had on the resources that we've been monitoring. We'll go ahead and remove that one so some of these others are a little clearer. And you can actually see as well, you can go ahead and click on these different items to remove them or add them back on to the graph if you want to drill down into specific data. If we want to go ahead and look at our average response time, we go ahead and see that in this as well for all these different resources that we're monitoring. You'll see these bar graphs in the background here. That gives you the average response time for all of the customers that we're monitoring. So for all of our SharePoint customers, that's what the average response time is like. For all of our Exchange customers, that's what the average response time is like. And then you can go ahead and see what the response time is like for your SharePoint tenant and your Exchange Online tenant, and that gives you an idea of how you're doing relative to everyone else. And that's a wrap of the basics of configuring monitoring in Office 365Mon, just the basic monitoring features. There are other videos that will talk about how to configure all of the other things that we monitor within Office 365Mon as well.